Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. Today we are doing another episode of Medical Grains, and if you read the title, you'll know that we are talking about a strange condition known as water intoxication or water poisoning. Now everyone tells you that you should drink more water and stay hydrated and everything, but you can go too far. And before we get into this topic, it is very difficult and very rare to actually go too far. So don't use this as an excuse to not have to drink any water. You still need water, okay? Let's get into it. Okay, so water intoxication comes about when someone takes in too much water in some way. Usually it is just by plain drinking, whether it was a competition or an endurance type of sport, or if you were getting it through the IV in a hospital setting. And some psychiatric drugs can cause you to take in more water, and some medications can cause you to be more thirsty as well. So it's not really the fluid that's causing the issue, it's what the fluid causes that causes the issue, I guess I should say. So the insane amount of fluid causes your sodium to decrease just by dilution. So when the sodium is decreased, your little tiny cells are trying to balance, so then all the fluid that was outside of your little tiny cells rushes into your cells, and then that causes, obviously, swelling. And it's not just like in your legs or in your hands or whatever. The most dangerous area that it's going to cause swelling is your brain. So the swelling in your brain causes increased pressure known as increased intracranial pressure, ICP, and that causes a wide variety of symptoms that are pretty nonspecific. So to start out, symptoms of increased ICP will include like a headache, you might be a little confused, maybe a little irritable, drowsy. Like if someone just ran a marathon and they acted this way after their marathon, I wouldn't be concerned because they just exercised extremely hard. But this is one of the symptoms of increased intracranial pressure. As the condition worsens, they're going to become short of breath on exertion, weak, they might have some twitching, they could even be nauseous or vomiting or having some cramps, and they might not have as much sensory perception as they did before. And lastly, you are going to become very bradycardic and have a very wide pulse pressure, which is the gap between the systolic pressure and the diastolic pressure in your blood pressure. So what happens when the brain starts to swell? Obviously the pressure's got to go somewhere, so it starts putting pressure on your brain stem, which controls, your heart, your breathing, the central nervous system. So you're going to experience seizures, you could be in a coma, this can even kill you. So it's very serious that if something like this is happening, that you seek medical treatment immediately. So one of the more notable cases was just back in 2007. I feel like 2007 was like 2 years ago, but it was literally 12 years ago. Whatever. So a woman was competing on a radio show to win a Wii for her child. So the challenge was to drink as much water as you can, but you have to hold your pee. Well, the holding it wasn't the problem, it was the drinking problem. She drank 2 gallons, which is the equivalent of 7.6 liters. So 7.6 big bags of saline is what she drank in 3 hours. And if you can imagine trying to give that in the hospital, 3 hours, 7.6 liters in 3 hours, that's insane. And I would expect them to have symptoms like that. So the fact that she didn't pee is only going to damage her kidneys, but that's not the worst problem that she's got going on right now. So she did succumb to her injuries, and she did pass. The radio station was made aware of the risks that could come from a challenge like this. They did not relay this to the contestants in a proper manner, so the family did sue the radio station, and they received a $16.6 million settlement, which they absolutely deserved. Another interesting case of a person that survived this condition was a British actor. He was performing a musical, and he was working so hard with all the dancing and the singing and everything. He consumed so much water during all of his plays. He consumed about 8 liters a day of water. So he actually was in a coma for about 3 days in the ICU, but he did survive. Another interesting case I found was that of Andy Warhol, the artist, and he died in 1987. He had routine gallbladder surgery, or at least is what the hospital called it, was routine gallbladder surgery, and he did end up passing away in the hospital. So the autopsy showed that he was 128 pounds on admission, but 150 pounds at the autopsy. So even though he had a very small, albeit a very small organ removed, he gained so much weight. He gained 22 pounds. So they were speculating that that may have been caused by fluid overload from IV fluids in the hospital. The family did sue the hospital for this. It was settled out of court. I did not see any definitive evidence that that was the actual cause. The autopsy said it was caused by fatal arrhythmias. He had a lot of other risk factors along with his gallbladder issues, such as family history, drug and alcohol abuse, like psychological issues leading up to the surgery. So there was a lot of factors that worked on his cause of death, but it's settled, so this may have been a contributing factor. Alright guys, I hope that you really enjoyed this section. I found this topic so interesting and so weird. Like, water's supposed to be good for you, how can you have too much? But just like anything, too much of a good thing is not a good thing. Alright guys, drink an appropriate amount of water for your body weight, and I hope to see you guys next time. Bye.